Okay, so here's a lady saying, I walk my dog at night, and I noticed over the last year, I see flicks of blue lights. Oh, good. Recently, I've thought to look for these lights. Last night, I had an aha moment that these could be protective lights. Thanks for the rundown on the colors last night, right? Because blue is protective. So, yeah, welcome to my world. High five. Yeah, the blue lights. The blue lights are one of those things. They in the Yogananda. Oh, look, other people blue lights too. Yeah, anybody else? You can raise a hand, and we all get blue lights. Sometimes they look like they have like a little golden halo around them. Anybody seen that one? The blue, and then yeah, more hands raised. Beautiful. So in the Yogananda tradition, this is called the blue pearl, and it's considered highly coveted, and is something that people see when they're practicing their meditation precisely or correctly, that there can be this like shining, almost searing blue, bright blue spot. It's kind of like right there, in a sense, or right there. And a dear friend of mine once said that Maharishi described them as the transcendent peeking through. But my experience is there's a lot of, when I go into the feel of them, like I get the visual perception, then I get the feel of them, that there's a lot of consciousness in them. And I believe that they could be the origins of the fairy myths. Because as we know in the Western society, there are these myths that go back centuries upon centuries of fairies. And fairies, when I look at them, you can look into them, and sometimes they're perfectly round, but I've seen them all different sizes, and I've seen them as big as that. During healing sessions, I see them a lot, and often see them like, off of somebody's head or coming out of some part of the body or something like that. But what I've noticed is when they're bigger, they're more diffused. And when they're smaller, they're really, really intense. But I am certain that they are manifestations of consciousness. And I am certain that when you see them, they are a validation from the creation that you're on track, that whatever you're doing when you're walking your dog and your mind is in a kind of relaxed state and you're experiencing some more abstract or subtle levels, subtle perceptions, that's when they come. Good job. Very cool question. And yes, I've experienced them to be completely beneficent, like protective and sweet and full of knowledge and full of hope and adorableness. Kind of like a light being. Question, can they be associated with energy coming down from the crown? The fact that your question involves a kind of movement, right? Coming down, like coming from the divine level of self into the body, definitely relates to me. Sometimes I feel as if, now I'm just speaking on my experience, basically I'm adding my eye to your eye, but it could also be that there's a whole field of living being in our reality, of which the Akashic record is a great overarching, huge, huge, huge form of that, which are like snakes. They're like threads or strings or streams. And that also brings me to something else I wanted to talk about today, which is matrices, and how matrices are similar or different to light medicines, because this is an interesting point. But sometimes when I see that thing, it's so concentrated and intense, it's almost like a little snake that's coming straight at me, that it's like actually beaming in. It feels like it's beaming in from the absolute. And so, because I've noticed that, you've noticed if you see them, they don't last forever. They kind of flash in, and then they fade out like that. Did that answer the question? Kind of. They're coming from the field of absolute being. And I think that sometimes when they appear here, like in the front of the face, you're seeing them as there's like a projection or like they're traversing into the field, and you see it start. It's like you see the head, and then you see the middle of the body, and then finally the tail, and then it's gone like that. And sometimes when I feel stuff coming in the crown, it's more like downloads. Does it ever feel like knowingness? Yeah, full of wisdom, full of light. Yeah, and not to also be confused. How many people have seen those little things that look like little about that big little threads or little nails, little pins of light? If you look up into if you look up into the sky, a blue sky, yeah, more raised hands. And then they're just like, there are lots and lots of them and they're floating all over the place. Those are something different. Those, I decided that I asked being, because I've been seeing them since I was a little child, right? Same with the dots, the blue pearls. And those are prana. That's a perception of prana in the air. Life force, it's like chi, it's like pure consciousness in the light in the air. You can see them often if you stare into a blank sky, or you stare out the window of the airplane or something, you'll see them. And it's interesting because they're not everywhere, and they're definitely more concentrated in some parts of some locations than others. And what's really cool is one time I tried blowing into them, like they're all over the place, and I, like as if they were dust, and I went, whew, and I blew into them, and they moved according to my breath. So I was able to actually interface with them with my breath, which was really interesting. So that's a thing. I mean, they don't have physical, it's not something in the physical form of reality, but it's definitely something that can be perceived with the physical eyes. So it's good that we have these perceptions because it helps us integrate the reality that we're living in a multidimensional universe, and the eyes at all the organs of the body actually have the ability, like we were doing the exercise with the ears, the ability to pick up or perceive aspects of consciousness which are not fully manifest. And that's really cool that we can do that. That is really cool.